Hey friends, it's Eden here. So I'm so sorry that this is late. I have had the tech hiccup morning of all tech hiccups. I actually just recorded a full presentation. So I thought I went through the whole thing and I, typed line by line and only to discover that for some reason I hadn't hit record. I thought I did, but I must have not just followed through in the process. And so I did this whole Zoom call with myself, talking to myself, literally, because I was not recording. So I am revisiting it and I will share my screen. Let me make sure that my volume is up for you guys. And the volume is up. Perfect. All right. So let's revisit this. So I'm not going to retype the whole thing again and start again from scratch. So we're just gonna go with it, okay? But let's just say at least now I've practiced it, so it'll take less time than it did before. So day one, sourcing and making our extracts, okay? So let's start with what kind of extracts we're going to need. We're going to need one in oil, in water or aloe vera juice, in glycerin, in 1,3-propanediol, which sounds really scary and chemical, but it's actually derived from fermented corn and is an alternative to petroleum-derived glycols, okay? So it's not as bad as it sounds. That's just the chemical name of it, 1,3-propanediol. And the 1,3, you have to put that in there because propanediol is completely different. 1,2-propanediol is a completely different thing. So that 1,3 just refers to the position of a certain group. I don't know if it's a methyl group or a hydrogen group or a carbon group, whatever, but it is positioned different on the molecule, which makes it a completely different compound, right, or product. So 1,3-propanediol. I put Zamea in parentheses or brackets, right, because that is the trade name or the name that the company that created or invented 1,3-propanediol gave to the product when they patented it and introduced it to the market. So in some markets it might be called Zamea. So when you're doing your search, you can put in 1,3-propanediol, which is the INCI name, or you can put in Zamea. All right. You can also do an extract that is a combination of glycerin and propanediol. All right, so let's start with our oil extracts. Why don't we? Let's talk about oil. So when you're doing an oil extract, I've seen people do this where they blend all their carrier oil blend together and then they steep the herbs in that blend of oils. Let's just say they have 4 oils, marula, baobab, olive oil and castor oil. They then steep they make a blend of that. They make their recipe of that and they steep their herbs in that oil. I think that that's a terribly bad idea. One, because not all oils are priced the same way, right? So for oils that are really expensive, that's actually a very costly mistake, right? When you buy an oil extract from any lab, it's going to be in a very simple base. Chances are it's going to be in olive oil or it's going to be in sunflower oil, and more likely than not, it's going to be in sunflower oil. Reason being, sunflower oil is very inexpensive. It'll range from $17 to $28 per gallon at the crafter level. So you can imagine how cheap it is for manufacturers, right? Sunflower oil is very stable. It doesn't go rancid easily. It's not super affected by, great fluctuations in temperature. It stays shelf stable for quite a bit. It's light, so it blends well with light oils, and it also blends well with rich oils. So sunflower oil is just an all-round, bay for steeping oils, right? And then rice bran oil is kind of similar to sunflower oil in that way. for, you know, kind of the same reasons. So I would choose either sunflower oil or rice bran oil to steep my herbal oil in. And then when we get to the herbal oil day, we'll talk about the percentage to add to your overall carrier oil blend of the herbal oil that you prepare. So let's talk about the process for making our herbal oil. You're gonna create an herbal blend first. So you're gonna take your two herbs. We already talked about it yesterday. We're gonna do amla and hibiscus for the whole line, just to keep it simple as an example. So for your herbal oil blend, you're gonna take 2 cups of amla powder, 2 cups of hibiscus flowers or hibiscus flower petals, you know, basically hibiscus cut and sifted tea. You're gonna mix that together, and that's gonna be your dry herbal blend that you use for your oil extract. Now, side note, amla powder. Those of you who've hung around me for a while know that I'm really not fond of using powders as the base of your herbal blends, simply because powders are very difficult to strain. Okay, they're also a bit of a pain to work with. Like once you start mixing powders in a bowl and they fly up in your face the first time, you will remember to wear a mask or a bandana over your nose. It's not awful, you know, if you're only doing it once in a while, but it is irritating and it'll make you cough and stuff. You know, so I just don't advise it. I prefer that people use cut and sifted herbs, that they use whole flowers, and stuff like that, whole leaves. But occasionally we do need to deal with a powder because that's all we can get. However, in the case of amla powder, most herbs, right, when you buy berries, they're usually soft. It's almost raisin-like, right? It's almost raisin-like in terms of um, like like a dried grape is gonna feel soft and squishy like a raisin. I know a grape is not a berry, but I'm just giving an example. A dried cranberry, a dried blueberry, right? We've all had those in cereal or muffins or whatever. Those items are going to be, you know, they're going to be soft and squishy. So you can see how an oil could penetrate that if it sat in oil for a while. Whereas a dried amla berry is actually quite hard and quite woody, almost like soap nuts, right? So just imagining that an oil can penetrate something that woody and fibrous is, it's difficult for me to fathom. It probably could happen, but that's not how I would personally do it. So for the case of amla, in terms of the oil extract only, I do recommend the powder. Okay, so that's our simple herbal blend. Now, this is going to be a pain in the neck, but it is a necessary and profitable pain in the neck. The first time you do this, you are going to have to weigh the cups of herbs on a scale. You're going to have to get a digital kitchen scale or a jeweler scale, and you're going to have to weigh how much 2 cups of amla powder weighs, because 2 cups is a volume measurement, right? It's a volume measurement. It's just telling you how big something is, but you want to know how heavy it is. And the reason is, when you buy your amla powder, when you buy your hibiscus flowers, they are selling it to you by weight. They're not saying this is a 4-ounce bag by volume. They're saying this is a 4-ounce bag by weight. So this is why you will see that, you know, even if you buy a pound of amla powder and a pound of hibiscus flowers, the hibiscus flowers are going to look way bigger than the amla powder, because they're not selling it to us by volume. They're selling it to us by weight. And hibiscus flowers weigh practically nothing. It's like air. So it takes a lot of hibiscus flowers to get to that pound or to get to that kg, however you're buying it, right? So you want to know how much you are putting into your recipe. So you're going to get yourself a nice notebook. That's going to be your dedicated notebook for your formulation. And you're going to note 2 cups of amla powder weighs such and such. 2 cups of hibiscus flowers weighs such and such, right? So you only need to do it the first time. After that, you can eyeball it. But then at least you know what you're doing. So that's a note on the weight of each herb. So you've made your little herbal blend, really just kind of, you know, measure that out into a bowl, mix it up really well with a spoon or with your gloved hand, and then store it in a jar or a nicely sealed Ziploc bag. Right, steeping your oil. Sorry, I have to drink lots of water because this is my second go round of this. So steeping your oil, you're going to take a large mason jar and you're going to fill it about 1/3 of the way with your dry herbal blend for oils. So for a 64-ounce mason jar, which is like a half gallon, what you would do is add 2.5 to 3 cups, right? So you can do 2.5 cups, you can do 3 cups, whatever. However much you add, just be consistent with how much you're adding it from batch to batch. And again, just figure out how much 2-3 cups of your herbal blend weighs. How much does that weigh? And you're going to notate that in your measuring jug because that's going to be important for pricing your herbal oil. And I do teach pricing in the Strong Foundations course, which of course is part of the bundle. So after that, you're going to take your sunflower oil, and I'm choosing sunflower for this line. You're going to take your sunflower oil and you're going to pour it into a measuring jug. And you say, well, why can't I just pour it directly into the jar from the gallon bottle? Well, the reason why you have to pour it into a measuring jar first, again, this is for your first steep only. You're going to bring out your handy dandy notebook and you're going to ascertain how much oil you're adding. Now, unlike the herbs, the oils are usually sold by volume. So when they sell you 1 gallon or 1 liter of oil, you want to figure out how much of that gallon or liter you're pouring into your steeping jar, so you know how much oil you've used, so you can ascertain what your herbal oil is actually costing you. So the first time you do it, you're going to pour it into a measuring jar and you're going to notate, right, like how much oil you put in your measuring cup, right? So and then you're going to pour that into the mason jar that has the herbs in it until you reach the neck of the jar, right? Don't go all the way to like the tippy top, but when you get to that neck of the jar, you're going to go ahead and secure your lid, and then you're going to shake everything really, really well until there aren't any pockets of powders left in the corner of the jar. So what this is going to do is it's going to loosen any air pockets that are in there. You know, it's also going to start the process of the herbs drinking up some of that oil, soaking up some of that oil. And so what that does is that it lowers the line, the level of oil, or, you know, you're not losing oil, but the level is going to drop down significantly, right? So if you filled it up to the neck, you're going to see it drop down like 2 or 3 inches. And when it's dropped down like that, you're going to add more oil, of course, measuring how much more oil you're adding until it gets to the neck again. And then that way you can have a nice full steep instead of like starting with a full jar and then, you know, 3 weeks into it having like 2/3 of a jar. So yeah, so you will want to do that. And then that's pretty much it. You're going to put that in a safe, secure place. It doesn't have to be in a sunlit window, even though that's nice. It doesn't have to be in a warm place. You can put it in a cupboard up high if you have kids or pets or some you know, being that might disturb it, right? So you want to shake it once a week and just put it in a secure place. A nice add-on, and this is kind of more on a spiritual tip. If you're an atheist, just ignore this. But I believe that, you know, when we touch things, you know, we add our vibes to it. So it's like having someone who's in a really super bad mood make you a meal. All that bad energy is going to go into your meal. So I prefer that people don't steep their herbs when they're in a bad mood and stuff like that. Just wait till you feel good, light a candle, play some really nice music, think loving thoughts to your oil. Another thing is that you can add words that your jar can then sit on for those weeks. You know, if you're a Christian, use biblical scriptures. If you're Muslim, use, you know, something, you know, uplifting and elevating from the Quran. If you're sort of more into universal spirituality, use affirmations, use words like love, you know, abundance, prosperity, or, you know, whatever, but just something positive and uplifting, preferably something that serves the person that you're catering to, you know, that affirms self-love, that affirms growth, just something positive, you know. And I feel like that infuses the energy of your oil, infuses the whole energy of your brand. So just, you know, and brings a little bit of gravitas and reverence to what we do, because it is a great honor to be able to make something for someone that they're going to put on their body, that they're going to anoint their whole body with, right? So it kind of takes you out of the energy of taking it for granted, or just kind of thinking about what you're going to get from it, and understanding what you're giving to people and having the proper level of respect for what you're actually giving to people. So that's just a side note. Take it or leave it. So that's that. So then you're gonna leave it for 6 weeks at room temperature. You can go longer, you can go up to 12 weeks if you like. Most people don't have the patience for that. But 6 weeks is a minimum, I say. Now, if you're in a tremendous rush, I'm just going to take a sip of water. Guys, I hope you'll excuse my chipped nail polish. I can't find my nail polish remover, and I was just determined to find it, but I haven't put nail polish on for like a year. So I don't know why I just got it in me to put this nail polish on like about a week ago, and now it's like all chipped, and I'm just like, I have to take it off, but I can't find the nail polish remover. So I have to take like a trip just to go get nail polish remover. And, you know, in the midst of a pandemic where cases are surging like crazy in my state, I don't really want to take a trip just for that. So there we have it. I guess it's going to be Amazon. So you leave it for 6 weeks. You're going to shake it once a week. Now, if you're traveling, if you're sick, if you're really busy with your work life or your family life and you don't get a chance to shake it 1 week, don't fret. It doesn't mean that the whole thing is bad and you need to throw it away. The key is to encourage you to make regular contact with your jar and shake it, you know, so once or twice a week, just to agitate the herbs so that the oil and the herbs are circulating amongst each other properly, especially in this case because there's a powder in there. The powder is sitting at the bottom of the jar. So you really want to kind of get it to circulate at least once or twice a week, right? For the 6 week duration. It's okay to skip a week, but just don't not touch it for 6 weeks. All right, so let's get to straining our oil. So at the end of the week, you can now strain your oil, right? So what I like to use is a paint strainer bag. You can buy these anywhere where paint is sold, you know, by the gallon. And, you know, I live really close to a Sherwin-Williams. So I just walk across the street and get it from the Sherwin-Williams. But, you know, I've seen them at Home Depot and Lowe's, maybe a place like Ace Hardware, or whatever kind of paint selling setup you have. It could be a mom and pop paint shop. I've seen them on Amazon. You can buy them from Amazon as a 25 pack for about $25. So generally they cost about $1 to $3 per bag, depending on the size. I prefer that you get a 5-gallon size if you're in the US, and whatever the equivalent of that would be in the UK. I don't know how they sell the increments of paint, whether they do 3 liters or 5 liters or whatever, but the bigger size is what you want to get, because that gives you room at the opening of the bag to stretch it over even a really big bowl. okay? Could you use cheesecloth? Absolutely you could, but I don't recommend it, and here is why. It's difficult. It's a pain in the neck. You may even curse while you're doing it. It's just too much. All the folding and stuff, and you know, if it just goes into the bowl, then you've lost the whole strain, then you have to start again, and it's expensive, and you can't really reuse it. I say forget the cheesecloth. I also recommend that you do it in a large bowl that you place in the sink. So what this does is that the sink is always lower than the counter, right? The bottom of the sink, like you have your kitchen counter, and the sink is always like, you know, several inches lower, 10 centimeters sunken into the counter. So it gives you that leverage of height, especially if you're not a tall person, because being high above the situation when you're straining helps you make a cleaner pour, right? So placing the bowl in the sink gives you the leverage of height. It also helps with your confidence level in making messes, right? Um, and when you strain, I prefer that you strain into a bowl rather than straining into another jar, because you just have more room to work with. And so you place your paint strainer bag over the bowl, right? And then you pour your steeped, you know, your herb oil mixture that you've been steeping for 6 weeks into the bowl. And then you just lift the bag, right? And then you just squeeze it out. Squeeze it out, you know, kind of like you're milking a goat or a cow. Sorry for that analogy, but you're just going to squeeze it out with gloved hands or with clean, squeaky, dry hands, right? Because you don't want to introduce any water. So you're gonna, you know, and make sure you turn the faucet to the other sink, right? Usually there's 2 sinks if it's a double sink. Turn the faucet so that no water accidentally lands in the bowl if the faucet is dripping. Um, and you're gonna squeeze all the oil out, right? Don't worry about powder coming through. Some powder is gonna come through. So once you've done that, you can then take a funnel and then you can put a jar again in the sink. And then through that funnel, pour from the bowl into a clean, dry jar. Then you're gonna let that oil that you just strained sit for at least 4 hours, you know, maybe even a day. And you're gonna wait for the powder that went through the bag to actually settle to the bottom of the jar. So once you see that, you know, like little line of powder settled at the bottom of the jar, you are then going to get a new jar that is completely clean and completely dry. And don't worry, this is your final storage jar. You're like, how many jars am I going to need? You should buy several. But you're going to take that final jar and you're going to slowly just sort of decant your oil into the new jar. And the reason why you want to do it without shaking the jar up, without being too fast, is that we're leaving the powders behind in the old jar. We're just sort of gently leaving it behind at the bottom of the jar. And you're going to put it into the new jar. And yeah, and that way you leave like 90% of the powders behind. And when you get to the formulating phase, you are going to be, you know, sort of gently pouring off as well. So you're not agitating the mixture and transferring powders through. Okay. And please label your herbal oil. I can't tell you how much people, don't label stuff and then they can't remember what it is they made, because by the end of this you'll have made so many things you won't necessarily remember what it is you made. Okay, all right. So water, aloe, glycerin, 1,3-propane diol extracts. For those extracts, you'll want to make sure you can avoid powders if you can. Some cases it can't be helped. But in the cases where you can help it and you can get something other than the powder, get something other than the powder, because it's going to make straining much easier for you, as you saw in the above example. All right, so you're going to make a 50-50 blend just like you did before, but this time you're going to use whole amla or dehydrated amla instead, and you're going to label it, you know, herbal blend for I would say for aqueous extracts, right? For aqueous extracts. And then, so you also want to label your bags of herbs, because a lot of times those will start to look the same as well, okay? So for this one, instead of filling the jar a third of the way, you're gonna fill it a quarter of the way. So a half-gallon 64-ounce mason jar in the US would be about like 2 cups. But you know, you're all grown-ups, you visually know what a quarter of a jar looks like. Then you're going to top those herbs with either distilled water or deionized water. You can use aloe vera juice, and that would be the kind that you buy at the health food store or the grocery store to drink by the gallon. I've seen it at Sprouts, I've seen it at Trader Joe's, I've seen it even at Walmart. Just, you know, I've seen it at multiple natural grocers. So wherever you are in the world, if you can get to a place that sells aloe juice by the gallon, or maybe you can get it online, or if you have a ton of aloe in your garden, you can, I guess you could cut the aloe open. Don't blend it, because then you're going to end up with the fibers. Just cut out the chunks of the fillet and steep it in water. You know, just fill the jar and just steep it in water, distilled water, of course. And then strain that after about 8 hours or 24 hours and preserve it. And that can be your aloe juice too. All right, so yeah, so this is what you want to use. Instead of steeping it for 6 weeks, you only have to steep it for a few hours. Because I'm advocating, I know in my botanical extracts workshop, which I'm going to link later, I advocate using hot water. I do like a cold water steep now, even more, because it's just as effective and it actually preserves the integrity of just the phytonutrient makeup of the herb that you're using a little more, so you're getting more nutrition in that extract. So I teach a cold steep now. You're going to steep it for 8 to 24 hours. Then you're going to strain that like you did before, and you're going to preserve it at 1 or 2%. So, so for every, you know, so for every, so 1% of, say, like a liter would then be, so let's just say if a liter is about 1 kg, so then 1% would be about 10 grams. So 10 grams per liter is probably a safe amount to do 1% of a preservative. And for 2%, I would say for every 49 ounces of liquid, do like an ounce of your preservative. And that's probably going to take you to the 2% range. So if you wanted to do less, you could do a half ounce. So that's an approximate, right? But obviously calculate it. But if you don't want to calculate it and you did what I just told you to do, you'd be safe. Okay, and that will allow you to keep that water extract fresh for 6 months at least. And if you keep it in the fridge, it's going to stay even longer, right? I prefer that you keep your extracts in the fridge between uses. All right, now for all other extracts, it's really just the same process as the water and aloe extracts. The only difference is that you will need longer, right? So instead of 8 to 24 hours, you're going to do 2 to 3 weeks. And you also don't need a preservative because glycols and glycerin are self-preserving. And you can also keep those at room temperature without any refrigeration, and they'll be fine for a long time. I would say even a year they would last. All right, and so I've linked here for you the botanical extracts workshop. So let me just leave it here so you can screenshot it. But it's going to be prosperandbeauty.com/natural botanical extracts workshop. But there is a hyphen in between each word in natural botanical extracts workshop. All right. And then for sourcing, I have a YouTube video that you can find. I might link it as well in the description box. But, you know, yeah. It's called How Do I Find Suppliers in My Country? I think that's what it's called. Question of the day, QOTD. How do I find suppliers in my country? So if you do that, a search under my channel, you should find it. But here is the link. If you, I don't know, screenshotting a YouTube link is kind of hard. But if you want to, you can. If you're getting the bundle, you will have the link in there. All right, so in the USA, for sourcing things, herbs by the pound, I would get from Mountain Rose Herbs. They take forever to ship, but their quality is amazing. It's worth the wait. And they have the powder, the dehydrated, and the whole berry amla. Amazon, just find sellers with the best packaging, price, and good reviews. So just search buy 1 pound amla powder, buy 1 pound hibiscus powder. And this probably applies to Amazon in any country, honestly. I didn't even think about it, but eBay is probably another place you can find things. I was shopping for a Canadian client one time, and I ended up finding quite a few herbs for her on eBay that were from decent sellers of things that were harder to get in Canada. All right, so oils by the gallon. In this particular case, I would say Amazon, simply because sunflower oil and rice bran oil are pretty easy to get. So you could get your sunflower oil from Amazon, especially if you were in a rush and you didn't want to wait like 2 weeks to receive your package, or even longer during the pandemic and you just wanted to use Prime. Yeah, you can use Amazon to get a gallon of sunflower oil. New Directions Aromatics. My only thing with New Directions Aromatics is that it's probably best to wait to order from them until you've decided what the other oils and butters in your line are going to be, because they do charge you $20 if your order is under $100, right? So there's that. It's also going to be shipping from Canada, so it's a little bit expensive and it takes forever to get to us. But they have a lot of great gallon prices for your oils and stuff. Jedwards. This is bulk natural oils. That's what their website is, but their name is Jedwards. It's a little confusing, so I put both there. Wonderful prices. From Nature with Love. They ship relatively quickly and they have decent prices, but not every single price that they have for things is competitive, so just kind of price shop a bit. Nature in Bottle is one that I was introduced to in my Facebook group by someone who posted, hey, have you guys heard of this and have you bought from them? So they're a relatively newer company. I think they're probably less than 2 years old. And they give me a lot of Mountain Rose Herbs vibes. So I kind of wonder if they're even connected. But in any case, yeah. So I haven't bought from them yet, so I don't know how long they take to ship and what have you, but they have some great prices. Aloe juice. Like I said, grocery store, health food store, you know, Sprouts, Trader Joe's, Walmart, what have you. In the States, 1,3-propane diol, I think the best price I found for it at the crafter level are ingredients to die for. They sell it under their own little name of Nature Silk. So you're going to shop for Nature Silk, buy Nature Silk, you know, as one word. The next one would be Formulated Sample Shop. They also have a decent price for it. So I don't know that I would get it other places. It just depends. But I think those places have the most competitive pricing for 1,3-propanediol. Looks like I forgot to include glycerin. Honestly, you can get a good price for glycerin almost anywhere where cosmetics are sold. Any of the sites I said above would have a good price for it. You know, you can walk into a soap making supply store if you have one locally, and you could probably pick up your oil and your glycerin. I don't know if they'd have the 1,3-propanediol, but they would have oil and they would have glycerin at decent prices by the gallon, which would save you shipping costs because those are heavy things to ship. I've seen a gallon of glycerin on Amazon. So yeah, there's that. So for Canada, oil, I would say New Direction Aromatics. For 1,3-propanediol, and probably for glycerin as well, I would say Windy Point Botanicals. And for herbs, I would say Foods, right? And so now I want to demo really quick how you would do a search. Let me get out of that screen. How you would do a search for, let's just say, how you would do a search for something in your country. So let's just say UK. So buy 1 kg hibiscus flowers UK. That's literally how you need to phrase it, okay? So obviously you've got Amazon comes up first. Buy Whole Foods online UK. There you go. So that's how I find things in other countries. I literally put, oh, I don't want to go through all that, so I'll just accept their cookies. And then they're going to advertise to me, even though I'm in the States. Maybe they won't, maybe if their advertising is smart. But in any case, so you can see that they have all these great prices. So 1 kg is going to be about £6, right? And yeah, and you can get a good price on it. And that's literally how I find things in different countries. So, and I show you how to do that. But you want to use very specific language. So if you say buy hibiscus flowers, you know, you'll probably get little tea packages that are like 4 ounces or, you know, 100 grams, you know, really cute things that are for people who want to drink it at home as a tea. But as a crafter, you have to put in amounts, you have to put in INCI names, right? So like if I wanted to buy propanediol in the UK, so buy, so let me put buy Zamea propanediol UK. I could try it that way. So let's see if they have it. Zamea propanediol, they have it. Fancy that. Okay, so there you go. So you know, even though it doesn't say 1,3 because it says Zamea, then we know what that is, right? And so they're selling as much as, like, I would get this amount, right? Which is £9, which is reasonable for like 2.2, 1 kg is 2.2 pounds. So paying £9 for that is a reasonable amount. That's probably about $12 US for 2 pounds. It's a good price. So I'd get multiples of that. So that's pretty much how you do it. I guess I'd love to share with you before I run off about the hair care bundle. So so basically what I've done is I have taken all my master classes, on product making for hair care. I've taken a few mini courses. I've taken my ebook, and I've thrown in 1 hour of time. So all of this is going to be valued at about $350, but I've priced it at $99. You get all of this, and you get an hour call at your convenience. So when you click this link, you decide you want the bundle. It takes you to a secure Moon Clerk page where you can complete your transaction. You're not completing your transaction on my site. And yeah, and you get access right away. And then within 24 hours, you get a welcome email with a little bit more detail about things, you know, like an invitation to the Facebook group and all of those things. So hopefully that's something that's interesting to you. Tomorrow we will be making a clarifying shampoo. We won't be making it on screen, but I'll be walking you through line by line how to do it. If I haven't set up my Zoom webinar tech issue by then, I might do it on a Facebook Live and then upload it to YouTube later, or I might just invite you guys to a Zoom meeting and just do it that way. That might be easier. But I'm so sorry about the mishap today and about having to record it twice and having to record it offline twice. All right, so take care. I hope you have a good rest of your day or evening. Drop all your questions in the comments or in the chat if you're watching the live premiere. And I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Bye.